a single entity called the Regional Transportation Coordinator. All the funding flows into a single management source who then determines the most appropriate, best, and most cost-effective means of providing the service, and then makes a single contract going forward. The role of the RCC is to act, number one, as the entity that chooses who the most appropriate regional transportation coordinator is, to make sure that they have a quality outfit that can do the governance, that can do the necessary oversight, and that can make certain that whoever they hire for that role can do all of the necessary gatekeeping functions, reporting to the funding sources and the federal requirements as required by law. The second role is of the RCC is to monitor their performance and make sure that they are in compliance, that they're accomplishing the things that they're supposed to, and they're reporting appropriately. With all the funds coming into a single source, that single source can then determine the best use of the funds in terms of when to use volunteers, when to use public transit, when it's necessary to hire a taxi or a livery company to provide that specific transportation for a specific individual. So they have to be able to A, assess the needs, B, do all the data collection and resource sorting, and then report out not only the expenditures, but the outcomes. And the RCC's role is to monitor all of that. So the coordination councils basically have a list of things that they can work on, and it's up to the individual RCC to determine what specifically they want to deal with. As you can see, this coordination continuum, the simplest things to do, information and referral. Gather information with regard to what are the resources within our communities. You know, who are the volunteers? Are there church groups or school buses that we can pull into this effort to provide service? Are there underutilized opportunities? For example, senior citizen shopping buses. You know, they might be shopping in the middle of the day, but maybe we can contract with them to take people to or from a medical appointment, early morning, late afternoon. You know, how do we tie these underutilized resources into a more cohesive network so fewer people are left stranded without transportation? As we get down this list of potential outcomes, you know, you get into more and more complex agreements and negotiations with providers, but ideally the idea is to bring all these diverse resources into a coordinated network that's being used most effectively, both in terms of the amount of service provided given the resources on the street and maintaining the cost, containing the cost of those trips. So the development process has been for us to identify a core group of citizens of Carroll County, bring them to the table, discuss all the development that's gone on beforehand with them. Many of them were already engaged back in 2008, 2009. We just had to re-energize them and let them know what was happening and why this new effort now has more support, both at the state level and the community levels around the state, than previously. We examined the work of the other RCCs. We were fortunate, in some ways fortunate, that 9 other RCCs had been formed. We had their bylaws, their memorandums of understanding, their conflict of interest policies, and we, over the last several months, have looked at all of those. We have reworded them to suit the needs of Carroll County and the participants at the table. We have come up with a good, firm basis for creating a foundation, active and interested citizens, and we actually submitted our application for recognition by the State Coordinating Council last week and were approved as a RCC on the 1st of the month. So we are now a legal RCC. We have legal standing in the state, and we have the support of the RCC and the legislature to move forward with any of the punch list of items that we saw in that previous page. So our pool of how we got to our pool, we started with a list of actually 85 citizens of Carroll County. They represented the business community, the public transit community. They represented local selectmen at all the towns. chambers of commerce, and all the transit providers. And between North Country Council and the Lakes Region Planning Commission and myself, we emailed every one of them, we personally called every one of them, and we invited them to the table to help us through the process. As I say, from that list of 85 that we started with, we came up with a group of committed folks of 10 or 12 that have been at every meeting and have actively participated and have been able to move forward. We do anticipate that the next few things we will be doing will be to re-engage that initial larger group. One recommendation made at our meeting yesterday was that we contact the planning boards of those towns that have planning boards, see if we can engage some of those planning board members in this process, because obviously if they're on the planning board, they must have an interest in developing the communities. And we think that's a good suggestion. We'll follow up on that. We have, and we'll be doing a media outreach. We'll be putting out print materials. We'll be making personal contacts. Certainly meeting with you today is an opportunity for us to let you know what's going on and to perhaps get the word out to folks that we might not reach otherwise. I'll be meeting with the planning board commissioners for both counties, both regions in the next couple of weeks, and discussing that further with them as to other suggestions that they might have and things we might do to bring a larger pool of folks to the table. It's an open door process. Anybody is allowed to come in. They can sit in on a meeting. Public input is welcome. If they choose to sign a memorandum of understanding and a conflict of interest, they're welcome to be voting members of the committee. The committee is not defined by a specific number other than citizen members. Citizen members are limited to 2, but we are looking for business and community and political input to the process. We have a number, and where this gets really exciting for the next couple of years, is there are a number of funding opportunities on the table from both the state and federal government, and many of those are explained here. We have these require state and matching funds, but for the most part, 5317 New Freedoms grants, 5304 statewide planning and research grants, 5310 elderly individuals and individuals with disability purchase a service is a specific grant that will be coming up very shortly, and that's a purchase of service. Does require that we have an outside entity, a neutral party, to act as the administrator of those funds, as the RCC itself handles no funds. We merely oversee the expenditure of funds by others, and so we'll be looking for an entity to act as that administrator of the funding for some of these grants to come forward. So we've got a lot of things done. We've got a lot of things to do, as I explained to the committee yesterday. Although we are now certified, and that seemed like the first big hurdle, there are a number of challenges ahead and certainly a number of exciting opportunities ahead. This is where the really heavy lifting starts, and this is what we hope to do, is pull this network together in a better way than we have been doing. As I say, it's been a long process for a lot of folks, and we are at a place now in time where we can make some improvements at the ground level within Carroll County. And my contact information, certainly the CCRC website is there, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
How does this tie in with the transit system that was put into effect here this past year? Bus transportation from Conway to Wilkesboro,
The blue bus.
so on.
That's one piece of the puzzle. And as a transportation director, I know that fixed route can transport lots of folks very efficiently and be much more cost effective than some other modes. But particularly in rural communities such as Carroll County, it cannot be the answer to everybody. We have lots of folks, and certainly you know the statistics for this county better than I, but you have somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20% seniors. You have something in the neighborhood of 12 to 14% that have no licenses. Either they voluntarily surrendered them or they lost them. You have persons that choose not to drive or can't afford a car. those people still need to be participants in your community. They need to get out into the public, they need to participate in community life, they need to access medical care, dental care, and other life-sustaining services. Fixed route can't reach all their houses, and they can't all walk to where that one bus travels up and down the street. And oftentimes, because of the limited nature of that fixed route service, running off in between 8 in the morning and 6 at night, or 7 in the morning and 6 at night, life doesn't stop at 6 at night. People need to get out. People need to get to a doctor that might be 10 miles off the route. How do they do that if there's not a more cohesive network? Somebody's got to pull all the threads together to understand what is actually on the street and to be able to call on the entity when the fixed route isn't the best option or the only option. It's a challenge. When I worked in Concord, I started the process in 1999. And because we got so many phone calls that said, I need to go to X, how do I get there? Your bus doesn't go there. And our often answer in 1998 and 99 was, we don't know. I don't know. Call somebody else. I don't know what to tell you. Well, the fact of the matter is, over 2 years, we pulled in 21 different transportation providers in the city of Concord. And they were church groups, and they were volunteer groups, and they were the Red Cross, and they were folks like Havenwood Heritage Heights. And
RSVP.
RSVP is also a big player, and Neighbor to Neighbor is a big player. So we identified, as I say, that just in Concord, 21, and we never understood how many resources were there. Well, the same is very true of Carroll County. And you have all those resources within this county, but for one thing, I don't know how much communication is going on between them. And I don't know if everybody in each of those organizations understands what the other organization does or can do. And do they call each other and say, I have someone that needs to go from here to there, but I don't operate then. Can you do that? Sure, I can do that. I mean, they want to help. We have to find a way to get these people who want to help into the mix and partnering up in a better way. Case in point, small private organizations running vans on their own oftentimes have to go to a garage or a shop to have their service done at retail cost. There's nothing in the world that says that they can't go to a public transit entity, whether it's Tri-County CAP, bring their vehicle in there, subcontract their repair work there at probably a discount to what they would pay on the street. What does that do for the organization? Puts more money back in their pocket that allows them to put more service on the street. We need to create these relationships and think outside the box. What we've been doing has been serving this much of the population. We've got this much of the population to serve.
So you're trying to coordinate both private and public
Absolutely.
entities together?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'll open it up to outside comments if you want, Mr. Babson.
Yeah, Mr. MacGyver, we've just finished, I guess, 2 or 3 years of studies, surveys, who knows what, to establish well, I guess it's Carroll County Transit, now run by CAP, and who knows how these things catch up. But this seems like a huge duplication of effort, and if you set this up, what are you going to do with your, excuse me, Chair, on centralized coordination? Will you be taking over the business from CAP and running it, or
Well,
how is it going to work? It all seems very confusing to me.
it can be pretty confusing, and the only reason I'm at all functional in it is because I've been poking at it for 10 years. But no, we don't intend to take over for CAP, and we don't intend to take over anything. Our grant, CTS's grant, is for this year, and my function for Carroll County ends in December of this year. The RCC has been formed. The RCC, we have created a governance, we have elected a chair and a vice chair, and we have a management team in place for the RCC going forward. We move out of the process, the RCC starts to make the decisions. You're right, there has been a lot of work done in Tri-County CAP to develop that fixed route service and to put the service on the street. That's, as I say, only one part of the puzzle, you know, and some other entity, which will be hired probably chosen by the RCC to